Welcome. Sent the invitation out to some people to join either on Clubhouse or to be joining us on the Zoom call. I'm looking for someone who could be volunteering as the Bible reader because I do have some trouble with my eyes. However, we shall endure it until we find a solution for it. So I've prepared already some time ago this. I completely forgot about it. It's on my external hard drive, the Bible reading in program. So I will just shut myself. Okay, push this out of the way so that we can read this together. And as you see, I have eliminated that word, the Lord, and replaced it with the tetragrammaton, well, the transliteration of the tetragrammaton, which, as we saw yesterday, is pronounced Jehovah and not Jehovah. So that is kind of interesting thing for us to be pondering, because words mean things and pronunciations mean things. Now, of course, if you are Italian, you're going to say Jehovah instead of Jehovah, for example. If you are Italian, you're going to say Antonio instead of Anthony, and that's perfectly okay. So we got to be mindful of the loopholes and traps set by this insisting on us using the perfect pronunciation in the original language, or to be mindful of to be mindful of the correct translation into our own language. So that is something we want to be paying attention to. And without further ado, let's get started. Today, the Bible study is the chapters of Genesis going from 4 to 7. So let's just start reading it. And Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from Jehovah. And again, so there you see, I did it myself, right there. Jehovah, not Jehovah. And she again bare his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought the fruit of the ground, an offering of the fruit of the ground, an offering unto Jehovah. And Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock, and of the fat thereof. And Jehovah had respect unto Abel and unto his offering, but unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. And Jehovah said unto Cain, why art thou wroth? And why is thy countenance fallen? If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. So let's just pause 1 second here. Here's the thing about this translations. Is it a question? Is it an exclamation mark? It seems to be that God was asking Cain to meditate. If sin is enticing you, if you are feeling like doing something you know to be wrong, will you be able to rule over it if you do not change your attitude. If you stay in that sullen, skulking attitude, will you be able to stop yourself from taking things too far? Is the question we have to ask ourselves, which is why it's so important that we master our state, that we keep on top of our feelings when we recognize what's going on around us, and that we are capable of seeing things for what they are. Worst case scenario, yes, but then trying to refusing to accept the worst case scenario until we have thoroughly explored any possible good in the situation. So now I'm mingling my different kinds of coaching styles, excuse me. And Cain talked with Abel, his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel, his brother, and slew him. And Jehovah said unto Cain, where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, what hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. And now thou art cursed from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. Let's just think for a minute here. These are thoughts that are just coming up for me. And if anyone listening in, if anyone popping in has topics you would like to talk about or specifics, you can just raise your hand and we'll discuss that as we're going along. So practically, think of this: from the earth which hath opened her mouth. What's going on in the world today? There's this big push towards the worship of Gaia. Gaia is Mother Earth. The earth has opened her mouth to receive your brother's blood. So the earth is drinking the blood of the slain. What does the Bible say about drinking blood? It's your brother's blood is crying to me from the ground. So that's something you really want to consider. These are like little things that pop out to you when you put the Bible in context with what is happening around you. Whoa, so much. It's incredible. And these subtle things like this just popped out to me right now. I had gone over reading the Bible before, preparing possible points of discussion. This just popped out to me right now as I was reading it. Didn't pop out to me before. So that might be something interesting for you to research. I definitely will research it more. So starting back in chapter 4, verse 12, when thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. And Cain said unto Jehovah, my punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face I shall be hid, and I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth, and it shall come to pass that every one that findeth me shall slay me. And Jehovah said unto him, therefore, whoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And Jehovah set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him. And Cain went out from the presence of Jehovah and dwelt in the land of Nod, on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch. And he builded a city, and called the name of the city after his son Enoch. And if I am correct, some hours ago, like it was 5 a.m. for me, there must have been a midnight ride on precisely on this. I'm not sure because 5 a.m. I was not up. I will go and see it later. So that's something that would be interesting. Also, very interesting thing to do is to do word studies. What does it mean, the land of Nod? We will go and take a look at that later on. So, starting back in chapter 4, verse 18. And unto Enoch was born Irad, and Irad begat Mahujael, and Mahujael begat Methusael, and Methusael begat Lamech. And Lamech took unto him 2 wives. The name of one was Ada, the name of the other Zillah. And Ada bare Jabal. He was the father of such as dwell in tents, and of such as have cattle. And his brother's name was Jubal. And he was the father of all as such handled the harp and organ. And Zillah, she also bare Tubal-Cain, an instructor of every artificer in brass and iron. And the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. And Lamech said unto his wives, Ada and Zillah, hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech. Hearken unto my speech, for I have slain a man to my wounding, and a young man to my hurt. If Cain shall be avenged 7-fold, truly Lamech 77-fold. And Adam knew his wife, and she bare a son, and called his name Seth. For God, she said, hath appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew. And to Seth, to him also there was born a son, and he called his name Enos. Then began men to call upon the name of Jehovah. So, some interesting points for us to be digging deeper on is the one thing that stood out to me was the concept of fair play. Now that's going to sound weird. Concept of fair play. I was thinking practically God had already cursed Cain, and the curse was huge. Okay. And so, like, Cain was already defeated from God himself. So God says, and he's like, okay, now I'm defeated. And if I'm defeated, if I'm seen I'm already defeated, people will take it out on me even more. And God says, okay, you're already defeated, so I'm going to prevent anyone else from kicking you in the face some more. That's pretty much like when someone has all this comes up again also later on in, I think it's Leviticus, I don't remember just right now, that when someone is already being punished by God, don't rejoice and don't beat them down even more. Take whatever is happening as an example, absolutely. See whatever is going on as an example, absolutely, but don't rejoice and don't be happy because God says, if you're going to be like that, vindictive in your way of feeling, you know what I'm going to do? Just because you are taking it out even more on that person, I'm going to lessen the burden for that person, because you don't get to rejoice over someone else getting beaten up, right? So, I mean, yeah, they brought it on themselves, sure, with their actions, but it's what is your victory in that? even if it's someone that was really harmful towards you. And that is something that I am dealing with on a daily basis. I'm pretty sure lots of you are as well. So let's just move on and think about that, move on with the reading. Oh yes, then men, last verse is, then men began to call upon the name of Jehovah. And here it would seem that this calling of the name of Jehovah, seems to me there's two possibilities for this. Either they were calling upon the name of God in a mocking way, or they were calling upon the name of God because wickedness was proliferating already. The other, there's another idea which was discussed, I don't remember when or by who, but it's something that came to mind as well. Also invoke. There are certain translations of the Bible that say invoke the name of God. Now, to invoke a name, it can also be used as in like witchcraft. You invoke the name of whatever. You invoke the name of, funny parallel, me and my son, we used to play Final Fantasy a lot. And in Final Fantasy, you have to summon. So practically invoke the name of God, summoning God, like as if you could control this force. Tells you how important it is to be careful with video games. But let's move forward and start on chapter 5. This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God, God made he him. Male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam in the day they were created. So this is something interesting. This is the second time that the Bible says this, that he made man. He made them male and female. He did not make human. He made man. And again, this is paying attention to etymology. We'll talk about it later on. Or else you do some research on that and we can talk about it once you have. And Adam lived 130 years and begat a son in his own likeness, after his image, and called his name Seth. And the days of Adam after he had begotten Seth were 800 years, and he begat sons and daughters. And all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. And Seth lived 105 years and begat Enos. And Seth lived after he begat Enos 807 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died. And Enos lived 90 years and begat Canaan. And Enos lived after he begat Canaan 815 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Enos were 905 years, and he died. And Canaan lived 70 years and begat Mahalaleel. And Canaan lived after he begat Mahalaleel 840 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Canaan were 910 years, and he died. And Mahalaleel lived 65 years and begat Jared. And Mahalaleel lived after he begat Jared 830 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Mahalaleel were 895 years, and he died. And Jared lived 162 years, and he begat Enoch. And Jared lived after he begat Enoch 800 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. And Enoch lived 65 years and begat Methuselah. And Enoch walked with God after he begat Methuselah 300 years, and he begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Welcome, Dave. Would you like to participate and read the Bible? We are in Genesis chapter 5, verse, just a second, I'll let you know, verse 24. Raise your hand anytime you'd like to comment or send me a message if you have any questions. So, and Enoch, chapter 5, verse 25. And Methuselah lived 187 years and begat Lamech. And Methuselah lived after he begat Lamech 782 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died. And Lamech lived 182 years and begat a son. And he called his name Noah, saying, This same shall comfort us concerning our work and toil of our hands, because of the ground which Jehovah hath cursed. And Lamech lived after he begat Noah 595 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. And Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begat Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And it came to pass, chapter 6, verse 1, and it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth. No, let's just stop here 1 second and stop the share. Okay, because there's something very interesting to be said about this whole generations. All of these generations listed here in all throughout the Bible. They can be so boring and seem so useless, but if God puts something in the Bible, we can be sure he has a very specific reason for every single word, because Jesus said that not one iota or tittle would pass without it being accomplished, without something about that happening. So one thing that I found out, I heard some years ago, was quite interesting. Let me see if I can find it. I think it was Chuck Missler is the name of the guy, but I heard it through this other person. I just came across a YouTube video once, and that really started my whole delving deep into the Bible again. Like it was just like, whoa, mind blow. And so enthusiastic to rediscover the Bible. And practically, if we go and we do a word study, and that's, as I said yesterday, using the Blue Letter Bible is fabulous for doing these kind of word studies. If you go and do a word study of all of these names in the Bible really mean so much more, which is also why God kind of has this fixation of changing people's names and giving them a new mission in their life with their new name. And I'm just here we go. So practically, one thing we can find from all of these names, like if we list all of the names, Adam, Seth, Enos, Canaan, Mahalalel, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, Noah, all of these have a significance. Adam means man. Seth means appointed. Enosh means mortal. Canaan means sorrow. Mahalalel means blessed God. Jared means shall come down. Enoch means teaching. Methuselah means his death shall bring. Lamech means despairing. Noah means rest. So if we just read that as a one phrase, Man is appointed mortal sorrow, but the blessed God shall come down teaching about his future death, that would be Jesus, and bring the despairing rest. So it's just like, whoa, the whole meaning of the Bible is condensed in a genealogy. And that's just mind-blowing, incredible. And there's so much more, like when you start delving deep into all of these. Another thing that I always find interesting, earlier this last year, I started studying up on history, the history of the Jews by Flavius Josephus, who was a Jew. And does this happen to you as well? That when someone tells you, oh, that's not important, you start saying, what are they trying to hide, right? At some point in his book, Antiquities of the Jews, Flavius Josephus says that we don't need to worry about the meanings of, about the generations, about the years that people have lived, and about their death date. And they're just like, no, wait a minute. The death date and the overlap of the generations is incredibly important. Otherwise, God would not have put it in the Bible. And that's how you come to see that almost all of these people, like we live in a world where it's normal that after 4 generations, you don't get to know your great-great-grandfather. But here, they all knew each other. Almost all of these people, their lifespans overlap each other. It's just like, so they knew directly from Adam, most of them knew directly from Adam what happened in the Garden of Eden. They had a firsthand account of what was going on. And especially when you come from families where storytelling is so important, you really sense how incredible it is that all of these people, except for Enoch and for Noah, the rest didn't give much attention to God, didn't care for God as much as it would have been normal for them. I mean, at least that's just my reasoning. If you have any insights, feel free to raise your hand or to send a message, and I'll be really happy to let you talk or read it out. So let's get back to reading the Bible here. Let me just open the keynote again. And so we were at the beginning of chapter 6. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And Jehovah said, my spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he is also flesh. Yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. And Jehovah saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented Jehovah that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. And Jehovah said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the earth, of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of Jehovah. So let's just stop for 1 second here. Practically some very interesting some very interesting things came up in the Bible studies held by this Rob Skiba guy. He passed away earlier, like last year, just some months ago. But if you're interested, you can go and check out his website. It's Virtual House Church, and he's put everything in there. And this is the one thing that really got me excited, because when I was a child and we used to read the Bible together as a family practically every day, I remember my dad would really take the Bible so literally, and he would also stop and like try to help us children visualize what was happening. He says giants, that they were this tall and everything. So it really became something far more exciting than Lord of the Rings, if that's your thing. So for me to come across Rob Skiba's his YouTube series was Genesis Revelation. It was just like, whoa, back to childhood, back to sitting in the living room with dad and reading the Bible and diving into all these deep discussions about what it possibly means and what it must have been like to be living in those days. And really seeing how, did you know that around the world in different cultures, what we call mythology is for them is history. So like if that's their history, and it used to be our history too, because I remember the ancient books of my grandma in which they were talking, there were pictures and things of giants and so forth, and that's like before 1800, and then all of a sudden all of this kind of knowledge was wiped out of our books. That was just crazy. But all of a sudden being reminded of all these things from when I was a toddler really sparked my interest in the Bible again, and got me diving deep and restudying and learning everything from zero again. So what I was looking for exactly, I do not remember, but let's have a look. Just a second, please. Because right now I'm reading from online sources because, yeah, that's it. Because I do not have, I have an Italian Bible with me. I didn't bring a English one. So translating from the Italian to the English is kind of chaotic, and I don't have anything left on this. So just a second, I'm almost there. So Genesis, yes, found it. There we go. So starting back in Genesis 6:9, these are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generations. Let's just stop 1 second. That's one thing that I had, this is one thing I had underlined in my Bible over 20 years ago, where God says that he saw that all flesh was corrupt, right? All flesh means all. It doesn't mean just man. It means all of the animals as well. And so that's interesting link here that Noah was perfect in his generations. It would seem to mean, if you go and look up the original word in Hebrew, you can use the Blue Letter Bible website for that. It seems to mean perfect in his genealogy, that his genealogy was clean, it was not corrupt. Whatever and the corruption was, of course, from the sons of the real of the true God. That would be the stars that came on earth. If you have the book of Enoch, you can, first one, you can read more about that. So starting back in Genesis 6:10, and Noah begat 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The earth was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make thee an ark of gopher wood. Rooms shalt thou make in the ark, and shalt pitch it within and without with pitch. And this is the fashion which thou shalt make of it. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, the breadth of it 50 cubits, and the height of it 30 cubits. A window shalt thou make to the ark, and in a cubit shalt thou finish it above. And the door of the ark shalt thou set in the side thereof, with the lower, second, and third stories shalt thou make it. And behold, I, even I, do bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh wherein is the breath of life from under the heaven, and everything that is in the earth shall die. But with thee I will establish my covenant, and thou shalt come into the ark, thou and thy sons and thy wife and the sons' wives with thee. And of every living thing of all flesh, 2 of every sort shalt thou bring into the ark, to keep them alive with thee. They shall be male and female. Of fowls after their kind, and of cattle after their kind, of every creeping thing of the earth after its kind, 2 of every sort shall come unto thee, to keep them alive. And thou shalt, and take thou unto thee of all food that is eaten, and thou shalt gather it to thee, and it shall be for food for thee and for them. Thus did Noah according to all that God commanded him, so did he. So, yesterday we were talking about the creation, and we mentioned how the stars are the sons of God. So that is one point for consideration. Welcome, Janice. We are reading through the chapters of the Bible and commenting, asking questions, taking ideas for personal research. If you'd like to read from your own Bible, or you have some comment you would like to make or ask questions or anything, just raise your hand. You're welcome to join. We're starting now with the last chapter in program for today, which would be chapter 7. So, and I always get stumped on this, right? Because as we mentioned yesterday, in the King James Bible and in any other Bible where the name of God, where you find the all capital Lord, that is indication that in that point, the Tetragrammaton, the original name of God, which you only have 4 letters in Hebrew, which was Yod He Vav He, which is then translated Jehovah into English, but then has been kind of tweaked into Jehovah. So we were talking about how important it is to be careful with etymology and what pronunciations actually mean. I totally disagree with the notion that you have to have this Bible only or that Bible only, because all Bibles that have been translated from the original, like I live in Italy, there's no way that an Italian has a King James Bible. They can't read it, it's English, right? So you want to be reading in prayer and have God guide you, and he will open your eyes to what it is you need to see. About this capitalization of the word Lord, that is actually what has rendered the Bible void of any legal value. It's true that the Bible is God's letter to us. It is also his testament to mankind to the loyal mankind. It's his legal testament. He's saying, like, this is my pact with you. But having taken his name out and having substituted it with this font, like if you go into legal documents, there's a specific way they have to be written. And here, practically, the name of God has been completely taken out, and this legal font has this capital font has zero to do with the rest of the text. So that's practically making it completely void of importance. And as I said yesterday, if you want to know more about that, you can go and look up a YouTube channel, Justinian Deception, where he explains quite a lot of this kind of stuff. So anyhow, so anytime you come across that, if instead of reading the Lord, you read Jehovah, you're reading the right word. But for the rest, don't worry about that, because God doesn't really put too much importance on if you're getting the pronunciation just right, because the pronunciation is long since lost. Do the best you can with your heart, and that's it. So, and Jehovah, starting the reading again, and Jehovah said unto Noah, come thou and all thy house into the ark, for thee have I seen righteous before me in this generation. Of every clean beast thou shalt take to thee by sevens the male and his female, and of beasts that are not clean by two the male and his female. Of fowls also of the air by sevens the male and the female, to keep seed alive upon the face of the earth. For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and every living substance that I have made will I destroy from off the face of the earth. And Noah did according to all that Jehovah commanded him. Quick pause. For thee I have seen righteous before me. What is righteousness? You will see time and again throughout the Bible that God gives people commands, and they do exactly as God says. That is what equates righteousness in God's eyes. Well, it's a part of what equates righteousness. So moving forward, Genesis chapter 6, verse 5, 6, okay, my aphasia is taking over. Genesis chapter 7, verse 6, and Noah was 600 years old when the flood of waters was upon the earth. And Noah went in, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him, into the ark because of the waters of the flood. Of clean beasts and of the beasts that are not clean, and of the fowls and of everything that creepeth upon the earth, there went in 2 and 2 unto Noah into the ark, the male and the female, as God had commanded Noah. And it came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were upon the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. And the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. In the selfsame day entered Noah and Shem and Ham and Japheth and the sons of Noah and Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his sons with them into the ark. They and every beast after his kind, and all the cattle after their kind, and every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth after his kind, every fowl after his kind, every bird of every sort. And they went in unto Noah into the ark, 2 and 2 of all flesh, wherein is the breath of life. And they that went in male and female of all flesh, as God had commanded him. And Jehovah shut him in. And the flood was 40 days upon the earth, and the waters increased and bare up the ark, and it was lift up above the earth. And the waters prevailed and were increased greatly upon the earth, and the ark went upon the face of the waters. And the waters prevailed exceedingly upon the earth, and all the high hills that were under the whole heaven were covered. 15 cubits upward did the waters prevail, and the mountains were covered. And all flesh died that moved upon the earth, both of fowl and of cattle and of beast, and of every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, and every man. All in whose nostrils was the breath of life, of all that was in the dry land died. And every living substance was destroyed, which was upon the face of the ground, both man and cattle, and the creeping things, and the fowl of the heaven. And they were destroyed from the earth, and Noah only remained alive, and they that were with him in the ark. And the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. And so that concludes our Bible reading for today. And one thing that stands out to me is how God continually repeats certain points. Like from the moment of creation until now, one thing that is constantly being repeated is after its kind, after their kind. It's like God is a God of order. And so it's like he made the dogs, he made the cats, he didn't make hybrids. And that's pretty much where this whole world is moving towards. If we think about how Jesus says, as in the days of Noah, so will it be in the end. And you think, what was it like to live in the days of Noah? And you see everything that these corrupted people, sons of the mixture between male and female, male of the angels and female of women. And that's how we have the giants. And you see how they taught the mingling of the species, the angels did. I don't remember if that's in the book of Enoch that it's written or if it's in the book of Jasher. I'm not too sure. Now, these are books which are not included in the Bible, yes, but they give us quite some interesting, it's like it gives us some historical hints extra to be adding in, pretty much the same as going and reading up the books of Josephus of Antiquities of the Jews. Gives you quite some interesting points to be thinking about, pondering, meditating, and comparing with everything we're seeing happening in the world nowadays. So that's one thing that really, really stood out for me. And what else? Wickedness. The word wickedness. Is there anything specific that you would like to have a deeper word study on, perhaps? This is an open discussion, free for anyone to chime in. Like the word wickedness stood out to me. Well, it stood out to me. I've been listening to various other people recently, and that word wickedness is interesting. In the Bible, in our English versions, in our translated versions, lots of times the words that we think that words are interchangeable, but actually the word wickedness and the word iniquity are two different things if you go and look at the original. And the interesting thing about word wickedness is the etymology. If you go and look at etymology, there's so much that you can start understanding. So I'll just wickedness. Let's just go and look it up. I am using the Blue Letter Bible for looking up the originals because it uses the Strong's Concordance plus some other very cool, interesting tools, which would cost a mint to go and buy them yourself. So wickedness, that word is ra in original Hebrew. It's ra. And isn't that interesting when you compare it to the sun god of Egypt, for example, crossing over these various languages. The more I study languages, the more I see how they might all be different, but they all connect in such incredible ways. And I'm not going to get into that because otherwise it's going to be chaos. Its translated word wickedness, ra, stems from the word rawa, which means evil. Evildoer, well, King James Version translates that word evil, evildoer, hurt, wickedly, worse, afflict, wicked, break, doer, ill, harm, displease. And rawa, let's see here, Gesenius Hebrew Chaldee lexicon, to make a loud noise. To be evil, from an idea of raging, being tumultuous, which is referred to an evil disposition. And that's interesting because when we looked at the word of the deep yesterday from Genesis 1, we saw that the deep is a tumultuous surge, not necessarily of water. The word deep is not necessarily referring to water. It can very possibly be referring to something that is underground. So those are some ideas for you to be researching if you'd like to. So going back then to ra instead. Bad, evil. Physically, evil, wickedness is physical evil, as bad cattle. And the word wicked in English, if I remember correctly, the etymology has something to do with the wick of a candle. So those are some just like interesting things you can elaborate on, meditate on. So we have reached pretty much the bottom of the hour. Starting up new discussions would probably make us go over time. Thank you for joining. I hope to welcome you on stage to be either reading or commenting or participating openly in the discussion. You can also find the videos of these meetings on, I will be posting them on the Delight in the Law of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh on YouTube in these next days. So unless anyone has anything to say, we shall be closing in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Have a great day, everyone.